Okay, so let's start with where your municipality is at right now, as it relates to the federal legalization of cannabis for Canada. You guys were one of the first, I would guess, outside of those out of BC, to allow for a licensed producer to come into your municipality. So give me a
hmm
little bit of a background as to how that came about. You know, the question was, was it a strategic thing, or was it just another business looking for a location to start up, and you were open for business?
Well, I think the message is we were open for business and we were actively pursuing opportunities to find a business that could purchase and occupy the old Hershey plant and provide jobs for our community. So strategically, cannabis was not on the horizon. I mean, at the time, Health Canada had not even yet announced its intention to more strictly regulate the medical cannabis field and at the same time create opportunities for licensed producers. So when Bruce Linton and his colleagues first came to the town, came to council, it was it was a new topic. It was something that we had not anticipated, but it was encouraging, and it was encouraging that they tend to bring they brought a lot of credibility, and I think it didn't take long for us to trust that this was a legitimate group of people who were recognizing a changing landscape, recognizing Health Canada would be licensing producers, and we saw a facility here which, if they're going to potentially occupy a third of it and hire up to 150 people, we thought it was a glimmer of good news that an opportunity to get somebody in this building while it was still in a position that could be occupied. I mean, of course, at that point it had been vacant for about 5 years. So there was concerns about the future of the building, and at the time it was listed for sale. I believe it was the largest industrial building for sale in Ontario for the lowest price. So it was a very attractive opportunity for this type of operation. And so it wasn't something we went looking for, but we were certainly open for business and actively looking for opportunities.
Great. And what has been the outside of the number of people that have been employed by the Tweed facility in Smiths Falls? What other opportunities have presented themselves for the town and for the people living in and around your municipality?
Well, I think a couple of things. One, there's a lot of spin-offs. So Tweed is up to about 1,200 employees, I believe, as of this week. Still more hiring to do. They still have a bottling plant, which is they're currently manufacturing, and we'll be hiring staff for that come spring. And they'll be moving into their advanced manufacturing area, I believe, by spring as well. So there's more opportunity coming, but the spin-off has supported a lot of new smaller businesses in town. We look at a number of new restaurants have opened, some new retail stores have opened. We've had buildings which were previously vacant and somewhat derelict, purchased, renovated, creating new commercial space, new residential space. So it's adding to that element. We're also seeing, our construction industry is very busy, not just the people who are working at the Tweed campus, but across the board, we're seeing more construction in town. And we're seeing other businesses expand. We're getting to the point now where we're hearing from our business owners that they have a more difficult time finding labor. If you look at our overall jobless rate, has probably dropped. It's hard to get numbers for a small community, but I suspect that the jobless rate has probably dropped down to a very small amount. And I'm sure most people who are looking for work are able to find positions now. So, and
Well,
that's not just Tweed, but that's of course other places in town which are hiring as a result of that economic spinoff.
that's great. That's a good problem to have for a municipality.
Yes.
Awesome. And then on the flip side of that, what are some of the challenges?
I think part of it, the change in the last year has been pretty uh, significant change in the last year. They've gone from let's say 2 years ago they had 180 employees. This time last year they had 360. Now of course they've tripled that. So what we're seeing is housing shortage. We're seeing very high demand for residential units, both rentals and home purchases. We have very little inventory right now, and because it's happened so fast, our home builders are now. I mean, they're working to catch up. But if we had had the crystal ball shined up and working a year earlier, and we could see what the future would bring, we probably would have had more home construction going on for that anticipated increase in demand, and we would have seen even more rental units created. We've seen some created over the last year, but still not enough to meet demand. And then the flip side to that, of course, is when you have investors, developers, contractors purchasing buildings, they are moving tenants out in order to renovate. And when the new apartments are available, the prices are significantly higher than what was there before. So we're
Mhm.
seeing affordability become a concern. And so our new council will be meeting later this month to form our new strategic plan to guide our decision making for the next 4 years. And I know affordable housing will be a key component of that. So I think it's not that we're totally caught off guard. It's just that it takes time to try and catch up to where we see demand today, and we expect it to grow considerably when you look at the factor that a year ago we had 800 less people working at the Tweed campus, and today we also know that over half of them are not living, say, within Smiths Falls and the direct area. So we have an opportunity, if we can provide housing options, to draw those people to become a bigger part of our community.
Oh, okay. That's a good plan to put in place for going forward. Tweed being I guess, the center um, spotlight for Smiths Falls, and for good reason, because as a company, it's done well for itself, and it's also done well for your community. But what else is there about Smiths Falls that other businesses, whether it's in the same sector or in a different sector, may need to know about Smiths Falls in order to contemplate moving into your area?
Well, I think if I go back a decade, um, Smiths Falls is going through a very difficult, challenging time, and there's one article written by a major newspaper, I think it was 2010, which said Smiths Falls is on its way to becoming a ghost town, and was
Mhm.
predicting that our population would probably drop by 2/3, and businesses would not be able to survive, and that we were really on our way out. And I think we proved differently. I think part of it was just the resilience of the people in our community, and also the willingness for people here to support local business. And sometimes, given a choice, people would buy something obviously locally before going elsewhere, and recognizing that we all play a role in supporting the future economy of our community. So, I mean, that's part of it. The other part certainly is that for a number of years, we had a declining population. The jobs weren't here; people were leaving. Not that we had saw a significant decline, but even a modest decline meant we weren't growing. And we're the point now where that has changed quite significantly. But at the same time, property here, real estate here, is still really undervalued,
Mhm.
and that creates a real opportunity. So we've seen prices move up quite a bit over the last year. But if you compare the prices here to even Carleton Place or North Grenville or Perth and certainly Ottawa, we're still far more affordable. And one of the key things that I guess supports that, but I guess another key feature is we've got a really good quality of life here. So when you look at the amenities that people would like to have in the place that they live, even though we're a smaller community, we have some of those great assets. And being on the Rideau Canal is also a unique feature that most communities don't have that benefit. We've got a federal waterway traveling through here. It bisects our town. We've got miles of kilometers of waterfront trails, and opportunity for people to enjoy park space and really a much slower but better quality of life. So I think that's a big part of it, and the fact that there's still investment opportunity. We are still seeing a lot of investors from outside our borders, even who are looking and are picking up buildings that are very attractively priced, and recognizing that there's so much demand now for commercial and residential units that they're able to justify an investment in overhauling, renovating a property, and especially for the apartments, they're having them rented before they're even finished.
Wow. And so the notion that Smiths Falls is the new Silicon Valley for Canada, does that give you reason to pause, or is it as mayor that you are excited
Oh,
about the opportunities?
well, excited about it, and I think when you look at how early we are in this whole new industry, I mean, we're still just getting started, and there's so much more that we need to learn, and so much more opportunity that's going to come down the road. That yeah, if we are the sort of that Silicon Valley of cannabis, no, I think we've got opportunities here that to continue to build our local economy and to
Mhm.
attract new businesses and we as much as we've seen the boom lately because of the shift in on the recreational side. Obviously, we still recognize that that whole medical research side is going to drive growth for decades to come,
Mhm.
and so we're seeing sort of that opportunity that probably does not exist the same elsewhere. So because we've got the world's largest producer in such a small community, I can't think of any other business that's come into Ontario in the last probably decade that's hired 1,200 people. If
Okay.
anything, we've continued to see more businesses leave the province. So we're a pretty unique situation, and I think there's a lot of businesses that want to be here as a result of Canopy's presence.
Awesome. All right. And now on the negative side of the industry, now that we have it legalized in Canada, and I guess a number of other countries are on their way to following suit, um, has there been an increase in your crime rates? That seems to be one of the downside to the upside of this industry. And what can you tell us about the crime, whether it's ticked up or it's just not an issue as many people in their own minds are thinking that it is or that it might be?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and get. I could go back in further details, but I mean, I sit in the police service board, so I'm in regular meetings with police, and definitely don't. There's definitely no increase. If anything, I would tend to think there's probably a decrease, and that's not based on any hard data, but based on the realities that when you go through a period of economic downturn and you see people losing jobs, you see people losing their homes, you can see more issues emerge.
Mhm.
And so if people lose their job, they lose their home, they lose their identity, incidents of mental health and addictions can rise, which may lead to a rise in crime. And I think when we're seeing the opposite at this stage, where we're seeing new employment opportunities, people getting new jobs, people being part of a new industry, their level of course confidence can grow when they see better futures for themselves. If anything, I think we would see an improvement in a lot of ways. Certainly not an increase in crime. If anything, I think we probably see a decrease.
Okay. And that's a good thing because it's one of those areas of interest for most people as it relates to cannabis. The assumption always is that, cannabis equals crime of some sort. So
Mm.
it's nice to
Well,
know
well,
that.
I mean, one of the objectives of the federal government, certainly objective here, would be the more successful the legalized environment can be, the less opportunity that black market has to retain a toehold. I mean, I tend to think it's
Mhm.
not going to be eliminated completely, and the guy that's maybe selling pot illegally now might be selling other drugs as well. So,
Mhm.
but I think if you can provide consumers with a good choice of products, you provide consistency with each product and known potency and ease of access. I think it's anybody who I think most people who are simply cannabis consumers today in the illicit market will shift to the legal market. So if anything, again, we should probably see some reduction in criminal activity over time.
Great. And what about dispensaries? Are you open for a dispensary in your municipality as well, or are you a little bit cautious as it relates to that, like some other, Ontario municipalities, Mississauga being one of them that have opted out temporarily at least?
Yeah. Well, no, we made we all the previous council was very supportive of having retail here, especially at the Tweed site. And the new council, one of our first actions was to let the province know that we are, even though we don't have to opt in, we wanted to demonstrate to the province that we are eager and ready for retail within our community. We would we would prefer to have some more controls on a variety of factors, the number of stores and location and site plan and things like that. But recognize the province has established the rules. We're fine working within those rules, and we're open to having um, retail stores and down the road, I would assume bakeries and restaurants and chocolate shops and other things that may have cannabis infused products as well.
Have you had any discussions with the Ontario mayor with regards to their rollout of the dispensary process?
We've had discussions with the province.
Hmm.
I was on a panel at the AMO conference last August with Minister Fidali and Attorney General Mulroney. The Attorney General was also in town for a tour last fall to get sort of some follow up at the Tweed campus to get some understanding. So we certainly made our position clear. Furthermore, I mean, I speak to colleagues in different areas because we've got some unique insights that they're always interested to find out what kind of experience we're having here with cannabis and sort of what our position is. And in many ways, they're looking at us as a leader in this area.
And that's great because that was one of the queries that I was thinking of is, are you fielding calls from other mayors around the country that are asking, how you do what you do successfully, and so they're learning from the things that you guys have been able to implement. So, are you being the mentor, let's say, for some of your colleagues around the country?
I don't say mentor, maybe not, but certainly some inquiries and answer some questions. And the one thing I guess is that Smith Falls has been under the spotlight, and the amount of media attention here has been probably nothing that we've experienced before. I go back to the week of October 17th. I think I had about 14 or 15 different media interviews, and I know on the 17th there's probably 20 different media outlets that were at the Tweed
Mhm.
campus. So that message is getting spread far and wide. So yeah, anytime I'm talking to colleagues in different areas, I mean, it's part of of a regular conversation, and specifically there's some who call inquiring about say our experience and um, trying to get some understanding about really concerns or any negativity is usually the biggest thing. Trying to help people overcome their fears, and and
Yeah.
and I believe that I guess education creates understanding. Understanding creates acceptance.
Absolutely. That's great. Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much. The last question I would ask is based on your background that sets you up to be a leader in this industry. Give us a little bit of your journey um, towards being mayor, and working with your council and working through being a leader for Canadian cannabis industry in your small municipality of Smiths Falls.
Well, I didn't grow up with the goal of being a mayor. It's something that sort of evolved over time. I go back to 2010. Is when I first came on council, and it was my experience. My other life, I'm a financial planner, investment advisor, and I experienced. I worked with a lot of people who had been through some layoffs here, and I could get some good insights into the impact it had on their lives, their livelihood, their confidence, their outlook for the future, and the community was going through a real transition. And so in 2010, I made the decision to run for council to try and help work with the council in developing a community, a better future for people who lived here. In 2014, I ran for mayor, largely with the similar objectives to try and help develop a community here that is going to support the people that live here, is going to create job opportunities, going to help improve our local economy, as well as take advantage of our natural assets, our waterfront development, and we have a beautiful downtown, enhancing our downtown. So it was really motivation about trying to, for lack of a better expression, make a difference for the community. And it's been a very unique journey. I decided to run again last fall for this term. Was fortunate to be reelected, and largely because I think it's such an exciting time for our town. We're going through such a transformative period, and we now have opportunities to develop a community opportunities that did not exist even a few years ago. From a financial standpoint, we see a growing economy. We will see our local tax base grow. We will see new people move into our community, and we have an opportunity here to continue to grow and to turn around what was a trend of decline, probably for a couple of decades, really.
Well, again, thank you so much for your time. Much
You're
appreciated
welcome.
that you're able to carve out this time for me this morning. And all the best to you moving forward. And Smith Falls is a great place. I've
It
been
is,
there a
yes.
time. I love it. Love the people are friendly. It's really pretty for a small town. And yeah, it is a nice Canadian small town to hang out in and live and work.
Well, and that's sort of the premise. We say it's the best place to live, work, and play. And of course, we have a new attraction from a tourism standpoint with the boat in town and drawing a lot of European American tourists to come. And that just started last year, season one. And
I'm not familiar with that. Tell me a little bit about that.
oh, okay. So the boat is a European tourism company. They have so rental boats, self-driving boats that you along most canals in Europe.
Hmm.
And we started working with them a few years ago, but essentially they opened last spring, bringing 16 of their Horizon cruisers to the Rideau Canal, and their North American headquarters is in Smith Falls. They've hired people here, and so basically you rent your boat and you get on it here and you travel the Rideau Canal. And the feedback they've received in season one is that the North American experience here rated higher than any other experiences they've had across all their businesses.
Oh,
Uh, so
wow.
they, and I think a big part of that is just the Canadian way. How we are very accommodative, we are very friendly. We try and do what we can to make sure their experience is the best possible. So they had, I think, 1,350 visitors who come into our community, got on a boat this season. They're adding 4 more boats for next year. The plan is to ramp up to 30 boats, and they're very luxurious canal cruisers. So you've got it's almost like having a 5-star hotel room on the water that you can park it where you want. You can enjoy the Canadian experience. And one thing we've learned in meeting with a lot of the visitors and the media they've had come over, we're in a very fortunate position. We've got so much natural and built beauty here. We tend not to appreciate as much as some other people, and people come into our community and they're in awe that we have the opportunity to live in such a beautiful place. So that message is going to go far and wide, and through the fam tours and media groups that they had over the summer, I think about 3 dozen of them, but the global media reach is 200 million. So the
Oh,
efforts they made in season one is putting Smith Falls and Rideau Canal in front of 200 million people worldwide. So we expect to see an increase in their business. At the same time, uh, people who came for a boating experience have said, wow, I want to come back and do a on land experience to see some of the things that are so great about the Rideau Canal and about Smith Falls and Ottawa and the entire area.
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
very if you want to plan your vacation for next summer, look up La Boat
Yeah.
and it's a half hour orientation. Anybody can drive them, and
Oh,
they're slow moving. They're very easy to maneuver. There are bumpers all around them. It's just a very unique experience.
sounds amazing. I will definitely be checking that out because I'm a water
Okay.
baby. So anything with water, I'm there.